These guys got stuck. I've never seen that before, ever. Look at that, they're stuck in the window. How's it hanging, guys? Look at that. Look at that, they cannot get off that ledge. What a bunch of clowns. Hey everyone, welcome back to Soul Reaver 2 Remastered. Boy, it's been a while since we last played this game, as usual. I think it's been, well, like 3 weeks at least. I've been busy with some other things, namely Death Stranding on the PS4, the original one. I'll talk about that later, but we're gonna get back to where we left off with Raziel. So last time we were here, we completed the Light Forge, and we got the Light Reaver, which we still have possession of. So now we gotta open up the gate and go back and meet with Moebius again. I didn't do this section last time because once you start this little section of the game here, it's going to be like at least half an hour before you can save. There's no real save spot in between here and your next destination, so you gotta be ready to tackle this section. There's no breaks in between. And they provide a nice little light forge there, or basin for the Light Reaver in case you need to recharge it. Yeah, between this and your next destination there's basically no save points, so you gotta just play the section from beginning to end. So we're gonna be here a while. And you'll see in a bit why there's no save point. Get rid of this guy. Yeah, let's just feed the Reaver a little bit there. Give it some energy. Yeah, you'll see in a bit why there's no save point in between this and the next section. So what do you think happens to the souls that Raziel consumes? Like, were they always destined to be absorbed by him, or... Because, you know, in this series time works in a circle, so was it always destined to be absorbed by him, or does he have some leeway there? Or are they just not important enough to count in the grand scheme of things, you know, just irrelevant to the timeline? Just ordinary, average folks who just happen to work for a madman. You know, Moebius, but are they just irrelevant to the whole time stream in general? They really should have recorded more lines for the enemies. I think Aspire probably should have added in a couple more just to distinguish them. Yeah, just to give them a little more personality, they should have added a couple more lines here and there. If you notice, there's not many of Moebius' soldiers around. I'm guessing that's because they're all hunting down vampires outside. That's why the fortress is kind of deserted, because they're all out there hunting what's left of the vampires. So how have you all been doing? I've been busy, like I said, with Death Stranding. I know that game has a reputation of being a walking simulator. That's what a lot of people call it. And there is some truth in that, but if you get past the first couple hours where it's kind of slow and boring, there is a really intriguing story and world to explore there. You just have to make it past the first couple hours and then it actually becomes really good. Frustrating, but good. Those BTs do not mess around. They will ambush you on bridges, in creeks, and all manner of places you wouldn't expect them to pop up. So there are some annoying enemies for sure, but there's definitely an interesting theme there with the whole reconnecting America thing, especially nowadays that America's so disconnected, so it's kind of relevant. But yeah, I think it's one of those Hideo Kojima games that it goes underappreciated in its time, like Metal Gear Solid 2. People love the gameplay, but they didn't really appreciate the story or a lot of the themes in it until they saw it come to life now in our recent years. That's when everyone finally gets it and they're like, oh, this is exactly what he was warning everybody about. Death Stranding is obviously a more fantasy oriented story with the whole afterlife and stuff, but there's still some pretty interesting themes there that I definitely recommend. You just have to make it past the first couple hours and then I think you can really get into the game. I started playing it because the second one is coming out in June 26th I believe, and I wasn't excited for it at all before, but now I definitely want to play it after playing like 10 hours of this one, for sure. Pretty interesting game.
Over there.
I was debating whether to kill him or not, but might as well, right? These are Moebius' soldiers. They're all vampire hunting scumbags, so might as well rid the world of them with their makeshift cannons. Here you go. Right down the middle. Okay, so this is one of the most impressive sections of the game coming up. This is where the game becomes really, really epic. Like, I was blown away when I first saw this. I'd never seen this level of storytelling in a game before. Or I'd rarely seen it. Because obviously, the first Soul Reaver was pretty good, and Metal Gear Solid 1 was pretty good, but this is some next level stuff coming in right here. So we're going to pay close attention. Because you really have to pay attention to what's being said here. This is critical for the story in the game, to understand what's really going on here. Funny is how he's almost disappointed.
Here, Raziel. Everything is decided here. You cannot comprehend the magnitude, the rapture, and the tragedy of this moment. And yet you must, if Nosgoth is to be dragged from the wreckage of its damnation.
I understand only this, King. That you and Moebius have impelled me to this moment simply means I can trust neither of you. I don't know who's pulling the strings, but it no longer matters, because I'm cutting them. I set my own course from here.
If it were only that simple.
Your fatalism is tiresome, King.
And profoundly ingrained, Raziel. You must understand. Our presence here doesn't alter history. You and I meet here because we are compelled to. We have always met here. History is irredeemable. Drop a stone into a rushing river. The current simply courses around it and flows on as if the obstruction were never there. You and I are pebbles, Raziel, and have even less hope of disrupting the time stream. The continuum of history is simply too strong, too resilient. Except, then how do we explain William here? The beloved boy king turned tyrant. In my youth, I witnessed William's rise to power and his transformation into the nemesis who laid waste to Nosgoth.
Keep your distance, Kane.
Years later, I stumble upon a chance to journey back in history, unaware that the entire affair has been carefully orchestrated by Moebius. In my wisdom, I seize this opportunity to murder the young king before he can ravage Nosgoth, and thereby provide the catalyst Moebius needs to ignite a genocidal war against our race.
I warn you, no further.
This one reckless act unravels the skein of history. The nemesis never becomes the nemesis. William dies a martyred saint. I, the vampire assassin, become the author of my own species' extinction, and Moebius profits from it all. I destroyed a tyrant only to create one far worse. But how can it be so? How, if history is immutable? The answer is here in this room, Raziel. Moebius propelled William and me together, but ensured first that we were both armed with the Soul Reaver. The Reaver is the key. Two incarnations of the blade meet in time and space. A paradox is created, a temporal distortion powerful enough to derail history.
Is this your sorcery?
Not mine, Raziel. Yours. You have nothing to fear from me, Raziel. You hold all the cards.
Then perhaps I should test your sincerity. If what you say is true, you should be terrified. I could kill you here and now.
And so you do, Raziel.
What's happening?
We're hurtling towards our destinies, Raziel. What you feel is the pull of history rushing to meet us. This is where history and destiny collide. If you truly believe in free will, Raziel, now is the time to prove it. Kill me now, and we both become pawns of history, dragged down the path of an artificial destiny. I was ordained to assume the role of balanced guardian in Nosgoth, while you were destined to be its savior. But the map of my fate was redrawn by Moebius, and so in turn was yours.
This is madness!
Fight it, Raziel. This moment does not have to be an ending. It can become a prelude.
I can't.
You can, Raziel. Look inside and see that it is so. You have the power to reshape our inevitable futures. Poor William.
What is this?
History, a pause, a paradox, Raziel. Even now, the time stream strains to divert itself, finding its old course blocked by your refusal to destroy me. The future is reshuffling itself to accommodate your monumental decision. This is where we restore ourselves, Raziel, and reclaim our intended destinies. It may yet be possible for me to assume my role as balanced guardian and return the pillars to their rightful inheritors.
To the vampires. And this is the destiny you have urged me to discover. I don't know what game you and Moebius are playing, Kane, but I refuse to be your pawn. Unlike you, I still revere whatever shred of humanity I've managed to preserve. You will not use me as the instrument of your messianic delusions.
Very well, Raziel. I'll not ask you to trust me. Your truths are for you to discover alone.
Humble words for one who presumes to teach me a lesson at every turn.
And continue your journey and learn your own lessons, Raziel. Remember, Moebius led you here, but you walk away unfettered. A champion of free will and conqueror of false histories. There is much more for you to unearth, if you have the heart for the truth and the will to see it.
History and destiny collide. That is so good. That whole section there. It's A+. So yeah, to summarize everything that Kane just told you, the only way you can change history in this series is by using the Soul Reaver. You have to use two of them, meeting at the same point in time. And that'll cause a temporal paradox that allows you to change history if you do something during that meeting. It's funny, a lot of people have pointed this out, but William has a really small tomb here, and in Blood Omen 1, William was massive. He was over 7 feet tall and towered over Kane. He was easily like a massive man of at least like 250 or 300 pounds, so it's funny how they portray him as this young boy here, when that young boy had a Tony J's deep voice of an old man. So either William shrunk in death, or else there wasn't much left of him after Kane got done with him with the Soul Reaver. Maybe the Reaver tore him apart. Maybe it's just all they could fit in there was just his bones and maybe chunks of meat, because the Soul Reaver doesn't leave much once it kills you, even the physical one. So maybe there just wasn't enough of him left to actually bury, so they created this little memorial here for him, but all that's in there is just his bones, pretty much, I assume. So Raziel resisted the pull of history and was able to keep himself from killing Kane. Also listen to what he told you. Like I said, the only way you can change history was with the Soul Reaver. Remember when Raziel first met Moebius, right here in this room, he had both Reavers. He had the physical Soul Reaver and he had the Wraith Blade, and they combined. So that means that in that moment, Raziel totally could have killed Moebius, and he would have been just completely expunged from the timeline. Like, he would have just wiped out Moebius from the timeline, and it would have taken a whole different path, which leads you to question exactly what he would do to the timeline if he did that, because what does happen then if Moebius isn't around in the future? Like, things change massively, which Kane will get into a bit more later on, but there's only so far you can stretch history, otherwise things kind of start to come apart. So it might have been a good thing that Raziel didn't kill Moebius like that, but on the other hand, it's intriguing to think of what the possibilities would have been had he had struck him down. From a certain point of view, considering what happens later, he probably should have killed him there. It would have been better off for everyone involved. Everyone on the whole planet, actually, assuming the timeline could take it, because that's the key. How far can you stretch the timeline before things become inevitably broken? You know, when you can't put things back together again, how far can you go? One thing about the basins there, if you try to recharge, I believe there'll be a shard of those creatures in there. There isn't one here, but I think after you've been gone for a while, you see the shadow creatures that come out of the basins at the different forges. There'll be some here as well. Occasionally you have to fight them off in order to be able to recharge the Reaver. Like I said in the last video, the Reavers don't really do much here. They're mainly just switches to open doors, which is kind of a shame considering all the powers they had lined up for them. But at the same time, you do see those powers in Defiance, so it wasn't a total waste. So we resisted history's urging to kill Kane, so now we gotta go find Moebius. Also, like you see, it's almost not up to you whether you change history or not, because the timeline itself was trying to force Raziel to kill him, even though Raziel was trying to resist it. So Raziel has free will, but at the same time, like Kane said, the continuum of the timeline is too strong at times. This is also the first time I've seen this game with subtitles, so seeing all of the words he used is pretty enlightening. I always thought he said the vein of history, which makes sense because, you know, it's like a vein in the whole body of the universe, but it apparently he said skein, so I wonder what that word actually means. I'm guessing it's something akin to like the structure of history, something like that. I always assumed he said the vein of history for some reason, because the original on the PS2 doesn't have subtitles. The original Soul Reaver 2, you only have them here. So it's interesting to see what some of these words actually are. Yeah, get axed. And that cutscene right there also explains why Elder King is one of the greatest characters in gaming. What Silicon Knights did with him in Blood Omen 1 was okay, but it's truly Crystal Dynamics that made Kane what he is today in these games. And if they'd had their way, Silicon Knights, there would have been no Legacy of Kain series. Like the whole first game would have just been completely forgotten by now. So we have Crystal Dynamics to thank for Elder Kain. He's what actually made Kain cool beyond just a vengeful anti-hero in Blood Omen 1. Because that's still a fine game, it's worth playing, but yeah, the whole reason why people love Elder King is because of this game, and then Defiance. Those were the ones that really made him what he is. And of course the original Soul Reaver. So, am I too disappointed that Crystal Dynamics kind of stole those series out from under them in court? Not really, because we got some pretty great characters and we got some pretty great character examinations, you know. Silicon Knights, the problem with them was that they promised a lot and they delivered little. So like they promised these really huge epic ass stories with like sprawling gameplay and like 40 to 50 hour experiences with a lot of variation in the gameplay, and then they rarely actually delivered that, you know. Even with adaptations, like their remake of Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes, was undercooked, you know. They didn't fulfill its potential at all. They got maybe like 85% of the way there at best, and then they just said, you know what, this is good enough, we're not gonna bother. And they just it's not a bad game, but it's mediocre compared to other games in the series. And then Eternal Darkness had a lot of promise, and that's a pretty good game, but it's not a great game. And the reason is, again, because like they were kind of over ambitious, but they didn't deliver. Like Crystal Dynamics promised a lot with these games and didn't really deliver that much sometimes, but at the same time they still delivered a great story. It's the gameplay that has some issues. But with Silicon Knights, oftentimes it was the story and the gameplay on both fronts. So like they over-promised and under-delivered, and you cannot do that in gaming for any extended period of time and hope to be successful. That's partly what took them down. The other part that took them down was basically their own arrogance in stealing the Unreal Engine. They stole Epic Games' engine and then attempted to sue them in court for like the engine not being good enough for some bullshit. And Epic Games just sued them back for like modifying it without their permission, and they just took them down with Too Human. Because Dennis Dyack was an asshole. He had some good ideas, but he was an asshole. And he was one of those pretentious, stuck-up assholes who thinks he knows better than anyone else. The man literally thought he was better than Kojima, which is laughable. So he's not better than Kojima or Amy Hennig. He's just not. problem with Dennis Dyack was he was one of those guys who had like an English degree or a degree in communication or some bullshit like that. And he thought that automatically made him a superior writer and storyteller to everyone else. And don't get me wrong, those degrees can be very useful, but they're not all there is to storytelling. Because if you think about those classic English writers that we all admire today, that most of them didn't have any of those degrees at all. They were just writing stories as they figured it out for themselves, what they felt like writing. You know, they weren't these stuck-up, well-read literature guys who had read 1,000 books. They were just writing stories to write stories. You know, people like Mark Twain and what was it, Chaucer in the Middle Ages. Poets like Walt Whitman. You know, they were just figuring things out as they went along, pretty much. You know, you don't have to have some fancy English degree or degree in communications to be able to tell a story. That'll help you if you let it, but that's not all there is to storytelling. And Dennis Dyack was that kind of asshole. And they didn't commit to anything either, because like if you look at the history of 2 Human, that game, as hard as it is to believe, was already supposed to be a story about a future detective in like the year 2140 or something like that. It was supposed to be a detective story set in the future with a detective who I think was partly cybernetic. That whole thing with biking gods and then being like cyborgs, all that stuff came out of nowhere. And it was like the 3rd version of the game. Before that, on the N64, it was supposed to be just a detective story, kind of like Snatchers over in Kojima's work. Sorry, dog, you gotta go. Oh, he's agile. So like they completely reworked that game at least 3 times. So no wonder it was a mess on the GameCube when it finally premiered, because they just did not know what the hell they were doing by that point. We'll let that dog live, but not this one. I believe dogs were actually used like that in the Middle Ages. They put those headgear on them and use them as attack dogs. That just reminds me of how Koromaru has a special weapon, Persona 3, that you can buy for him. That's basically like a mask with a knife attached to it, a blade. Yeah, let's leave those guys alone since we don't need to bother with them. We have the main guy coming up here. Oh, we gotta kill these 2. I wish you could stealth kill people in this game like you could in the original. But yeah, the combat is they could have done better. It's not as refined as it could be. One reason why I wouldn't mind a full-blown remake of this or Soul Reaver 1, they could definitely improve on the combat. I don't know about the voice acting though, because these voice actors are legendary. I don't know if you could find anyone better than them even today. But they could definitely improve the combat. Maybe just do what Metal Gear Solid Delta is doing, you know, just improve the graphics to an insane degree, but then keep everything else more or less the same. Maybe add a couple areas here and there, you know, like the original Resident Evil remake did. You know, just add some areas, like some of the ones missing here, like the Spirit Forge, the Earth Forge. Maybe you could add those, but more or less keep the game intact. Because the thing about this game is with the way its story plays out, even if they did add areas, you know, for you to explore, it's actually not going to make a bit of difference in the end towards the story, because like Kane said, that the timeline has to flow in a certain direction. So even if they added the Spirit Forge and the Earth Forge and all those forges that got taken out because they didn't have time to finish them on, it would not affect the story in the slightest. It's one of those weird games where it's weird in that if you actually add more areas, it's not going to detract or enhance the story at all. It would just be pure gameplay added to the game to make it better. But story wise, for a very important reason that you'll see at the end, it would not make a bit of difference at all whether or not Raziel obtained those particular Reavers. It just will not make a difference in the long run. So I think you could do it. You could add those areas just for fun, just to see what they would have been like originally and improve them, even based on the concept art, the sketches, all that stuff. You know, just add them in for gameplay's sake, because you can actually get away with it pretty cleanly in terms of the story here. You know, having 2 or 3 extra temples to explore is not going to make a bit of difference at all. Maybe they'll do it someday, depending on whether they revive the series or not, depending on how well this sold. But let's go meet up with Moebius. He's in there, in that chamber right there. So if you didn't have the Light Reaver here, you'd be forced to... Let's leave that here. But you'd be forced to go back and find the Light Reaver and come all the way back here to activate the crystal. We'll leave that blade there for now.
Ah, yes. I like that look on your face, Moebius. You really don't know what to do now, do you, old man? Here you are, caught without your damn staff. I suspect things aren't progressing quite as you'd hoped. You're not used to the fly turning to confront you in your web, are you?
Kane's devious influence has poisoned your mind, Raziel. Now you see betrayal everywhere, even in your closest allies.
We were never allies, Moebius. Conspirators, perhaps. Briefly.
Why did you not kill Kane when you had the chance? He was at your mercy.
Precisely. I had a choice, and I chose mercy. And now I know your sordid little secret. The significance of that displacement I felt when the 2 Reavers came together. Strangely enough, I was enlightened by the devious Kane, not by you. In fact, I've learned much more than you counted on. I understand now how you've tried to manipulate all of history for your own personal gain. But now all your little schemes are whirling in ruin around you, aren't they? All because I chose to exert my will for once, rather than obey the demands of sorcerers and spirits and demons, all singing the same tiresome refrain, "Kill Kane." I'm setting my own path from here, Moebius. I intend to discover the truth behind all of this.
But you condemn us all with this impetuous act.
Hardly impetuous. It took all the will I could muster. Has my refusal to kill Kane reshuffled your carefully stacked deck of cards?
You really think that you're exercising your free will, Raziel? You're simply Kane's servant.
I do not serve Kane. I merely did not kill him.
Raziel, do not forget your purpose here. You are destined to be the savior of Nosgoth.
Oh, I'm sick of hearing that particular phrase. As for saving Nosgoth, so far I see precious little reason to bother. And I'll choose my own purpose from here on out, Time Streamer. Right now, I choose to manipulate you for a change. Go. In there.
What are you doing?
Come. Yes, you're a cunning serpent. You'll piece it together, I imagine. This era is of no further use to me. You will operate this device to provide me passage. I want to see the world in a simpler time, before the Sarafan began their crusade.
And what about Kane? You're leaving your core behind.
You kill him if it's so damned important.
You need only touch the 2 poles of the switch, and the device will transport you. But I urge you to reconsider.
You've lost your powers of persuasion, old man. Rot here and forget me.
You underestimate him, Razio. Remember, this guy's 1,000 years old. Or probably 3,000 years old. He's way older than you. He knows how to manipulate people. And like, you're really gonna trust him to send you to the proper time period where you don't even know what any of these symbols mean. Like, come on, man. It's not like it says Nosgoth circa, I don't know, 3000 BK before Cain. There's no date written on those things. So unless you know what that specific language is, what those symbols are, like, you're not gonna have a way to actually get back. I always like how that floor sounds. I wonder, is that like some type of glass or transparent marble? So you can see here, some of the gears have a little deterioration to them, which should tell you something about what we're about to see once we step outside that door. But yeah, Razio's kind of gullible. You have no assurances that he can send you to the proper time period. Not only that, that you have nothing to threaten him with, because remember, Cain told you you can't change history without the Reaver. You need both of them. You only have this, the Wraith Blade. So even if he did attempt to send you somewhere else, and you caught on to that, how are you going to threaten him? You can't kill him because the timeline is going to stop you from killing him. You'd have to just, I don't know, break his arm or cut off something from him, leave him intact but alive, because there's no way you can kill him because the timeline won't allow you to kill him. So you've got nothing to threaten him with except the hope that maybe he can send you to the right time period. Also, that is the moment there when Razio effectively turns his back on Nosgoth for a while. You said it, like he said, you kill him if it's so damn important. So at this moment, he just does not care. He is strictly pursuing his specific destiny, whatever it is. Which reminds me, like I said, a bit of, I don't know if I said this before, but it reminds me a bit of The Last of Us, in that Joel has plenty of reason to turn his back on the world. The world hasn't given him shit. The world hasn't given him a reason to defend it. So it's not surprising that he turns his back on it so easily, and chooses to save family over the world. Now, Razio doesn't have anyone here that he cares about, but at the same time, the world has given him very little reason to care about it. So it's not surprising that he kind of turns his back on it for a while, for the next few hours of the game, because what has the world ever done for him? It's pretty hard to care about a world that doesn't actually give you a reason to care about it.
Even as I emerged from that infernal time-streaming chamber, I suspected treachery. The stronghold was vacant, derelict, and abandoned.
All those words to describe it being empty. This is the first time meeting these guys. Here we go. Straight from Blood Omen. They are quick. They will not let up. They will stay on your ass until you kill them. Give me that sword. Also, they hit hard, so they take a huge chunk of your life. And these are not the worst. worst is yet to come. Come on. There we go. Now what's interesting is here they all have the usual skulls for the souls, but in Defiance they actually each get their own little shapes. So like demons do not have the same souls as other enemies. They each have a different shape, so that's a pretty cool detail we see over there. It's funny how he says I suspected treachery. It's like, gee, you think? The ceiling's caved in. And it's still here. If he sent you back to where he was supposed to, this place wouldn't exist. All you'd have here is literally just the chamber, and that's it. There wouldn't be a Sarafan Stronghold because there wouldn't be a Sarafan in the first place. So it's funny that he says he suspected treachery, and it's like, dude, he obviously sent you to the wrong time period, jackass. You know, if he had sent you to the right time period, this whole thing wouldn't exist. The only thing that would be here would literally be the time streaming chamber, and that's because it's older than him, than Moebius. Otherwise, you'd just be stepping out into wilderness if he sent you to the right spot. So like, Raziel fancies himself as being a pretty clever fellow, but he's actually kind of dim in some respects. He's not the brightest bulb out there. Like, it's probably not even the brightest of Kane's lieutenants. That would probably be Zephon or Rahab. He's not the dumbest, because that was Dumas. Dumas was dumb as shit, but he's not the brightest of guys either. Look at him fighting the demons and the assholes. See which one wins. Think the demon or think the assholes are gonna beat him? Just stay out of it, Raziel. You'll notice the armor is different. It has some thicker axes, so this is obviously a different time period of hunting. They're not hunting vampires anymore. They're hunting demons. Let's see who wins. Place your bet. You think the demon's gonna triumph? It's gonna be the assholes who win. Oh, they're trying. Oh wow, they killed him. They actually killed the demon. Good job. Unfortunately, they're gonna die right now. Oh shit, never mind. Let's get the fuck out of here. Never mind, let them deal with it. Let them deal with it. Let them kill the other one. We'll go back for him. This was a nice rain effect too. I believe the team for Soul Reaver 2 specifically said that when they saw the rain effects in Metal Gear Solid 2, they immediately knew they had to up their game, because what Kojima and his team had done was very impressive. They immediately knew they had to up their game for this game. So even on the PS2, you can see like the raindrops landing on Raziel's head if you look very closely. It's a pretty impressive work. Of course, they didn't know that Kojima and his team almost killed themselves developing that game. Now, Kojima had to be sent to the hospital of exhaustion, and they were just doing serious crunch time. But they knew they had to step out their game once they saw Mr. Kojima's handiwork. Because they were competing with them technically. You know, all those studios were competing back then to see who could make the best possible game, compared to nowadays where it's like, oh, let's just get it out. Let's just get it out on time and we'll fix it later. We'll even finish it later. The game might not even be 75% finished, and they'll just ship that thing out because the publishers demand it. That's what they did with Spider-Man 2. That game should have been a masterpiece, and it was kind of fun. It's kind of funny in a sad way to see it not win any awards at the Game Awards because it wasn't finished. You know, that game should have been a masterpiece that won tons of awards, and instead it didn't win a single one because they shipped the game unfinished. Like, it was literally only like 85% finished, thanks to Sony wanting it out quickly. Actually, I'm noticing the rain is not really piling on his head like it does in the PS2 version. I wonder if they took that out for this one. Maybe an oversight. Yeah, because on the PS2 you can see clearly there's like a little outline of water, and it does actually strike his head as it falls, the raindrops. Or maybe it's just because this is inside the building. Maybe you gotta go outdoors to get the full effect. Let's see. I think those guys are dead, so let's go kill that remaining demon. I hope they at least kill one. Come on, you fools. Oh yeah, look at that, they kill. Damn, those demons just kicked their asses. So let's get our lunch. Damn, they just killed, they just whipped ass. They're probably still wandering outside. I don't like the axe for the demons, and I'll tell you why, because they can block easily. So you notice with at least with the sword, you can kind of dodge around and slash at them, but with the axe, they can block that pretty easily, so you kind of have to hope that you can get a hit on them. It works well for human enemies like demon hunters. It does not work well for demons themselves. They would just run circles around you. Also like that the weapons don't break, because in other games they would actually break, which can be annoying. Always approach cautiously, because stuff like that happens a lot during this section. They would just spawn out of nowhere, so let them deal with it first. You just hang behind them, hide behind the wall or something, just let the chaos unfold. It's less enemies for you to kill. And look at that, those demon hunters are actually pretty effective. I guess because they had a lot of experience, they're actually pretty good. Look at that, they're just whipping his ass. But it's easier to kill them than it is to kill the demons, so... Yeah, look at that, they finished them off. They're actually... Moebius would be proud. They're actually not incompetent. Unfortunately, it doesn't help against Raziel, but... It's funny how this is like 100 years later after Blood Omen and they still haven't developed guns. They have those same cannons. I told you before, there was supposed to be a shotgun in Moebius' museum in Blood Omen, and you actually see it there. So I'm guessing Cain derailed that timeline, so Nosgoth never saw the invention of firearms in the traditional sense. Western style firearms like the cowboys used. Probably a good thing for the vampires, but a bad thing for us, because it means we don't get to use guns. You imagine Raziel with a gun? Nothing's scarier than a soul-stealing wraith with a firearm. See, like that what I mean, like, you can slash them to hell with the sword. You can't really do that with the axe, they just block it. These are some cool design though, they're partly based on the ones from Blood Omen 1. Also, the demon souls last longer than the human ones. And you can see they replenish a lot more energy. Those are kind of like the reptilian demons. They have different ones. They have the electricity ones. They have ones that spew this kind of purple fog. Kind of like the toxic zombies in the RE2 DLC. Those type of demons, they poison you. And then they have the big guys, which are the fire demons. Those are the worst to kill, because they just hit hard and it's like trying to move a rock. You gotta strike them like at least like a dozen times before they die, so they're very strong compared to other enemies in the game. And then you get the Ultra Fire Demon near the end, the Black Fire Demon, which is kind of reminiscent of the one from Blood Omen at the very end of the game, and that one's a bitch to deal with. I think if they don't block your path, there's a couple times when they don't block your path, it's best to just ignore them, because it takes a lot of effort to kill those guys and it's not worth it. Remember, proceed cautiously. Don't let them see you. Let them fight it out for themselves first. Because even if they don't kill them, at least they weaken them. You can also hear them calling for Raziel. So they know who they're after, and it's not those puny humans. Oh, they got one. They got that guy. This is cool though, because in a lot of games nowadays, like, a lot of people complain the enemies don't fight each other. You know, even if they're supposed to hate each other, they will concentrate on you. That happens a lot apparently in Fallout, where they the enemies target you, they never target each other, even though they're supposed to. But here, this was the PS2 era, and damn, they're fighting it out. Unfortunately, they won this round, so we gotta deal with them. Here we go. Wow, these are harder. They block a lot faster. This is where a few more moves would be useful if they ever remake this game. You know, we need something besides standard slashes to fight these guys with. They weaken them though, that's something. Got two. And let's take care of this bastard. Oh, look at that. Right down the crotch. Look at that. It's like juggling him. Nice. Now there isn't a question in this series of what these guys actually are, besides demons obviously, but I think it's half and half. I think some of them are possessed by shall we say certain other parties, but half of them have their own will. Like there are some that are clearly intelligent, but then there's others that are clearly being possessed by someone or something from another realm. But who that mystery guest is, we'll leave that unsaid for now. We'll see them in Blood Omen 2. Yes, I'm probably gonna play that game just because even though it's not the best of games, it kind of sucks. But story-wise, it's okay-ish. You could tell they needed Amy Hennig there instead of the new writers they got, but it's not a bad way to spend a few hours. Kane gets to do some funny shit in that game. Like, try to get into a wharf, get denied entry because he doesn't know the password, so you learn the password and then you just come back and kill the guy behind the fence. And he gets some interesting outfits in that game. Also, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that game is worth playing solely for the Eternal Prison. If nothing else, that one section of the game, which is probably as close as we'll ever get to like Clive Barker Hellraiser in a video game, is worth playing. Because I don't believe even Clive did that in his own game, Jericho. I think that one section is probably the closest we'll ever get to a Hellraiser video game. And I don't mean like just Pinhead being in Dead by Daylight or anything like that. I mean the actual themes and aesthetic imagery and all that stuff of Hellraiser. I think that's the closest we'll actually get that one section in that one game in Blood Omen 2. So we'll play that game. This has already been like 10 years since I played it, so I'll give it another shot. Again, hide. Ah, there's no dudes to fight with. Shit. You can outrace it to the top of the structure. You know, that balcony overlooking the lake, but they're gonna be pursuing you the whole way, so it's probably best to just kill them. Or should we try to race? Ah, we can't race him because that guy's blocking the door. Fuck. I guess we gotta fight them. Because yeah, that one green guy's blocking the door. Actually, let's see if we can get away. Maybe we can outrun them. Oh no, we can't outrun these guys. Ah, so that's why they didn't follow, because they knew these guys were gonna be here. Yeah, so I think this is not the correct path. The one where they kind of follow you up the stairs. I think maybe that's later. These guys got stuck. I've never seen that before, ever. Look at that, they're stuck in the window. How's it hanging, guys? Look at that. Look at that, they cannot get off that ledge. What a bunch of clowns. Let's put them out of the misery. I guess they don't have ledges or windows where demons come from. It's all flat terrain, so they don't know how to deal with it.
If I had any doubts about the era I now occupied, this grotesque tableau certainly eliminated them. For here was Moebius, long since murdered by Cain, lionized and beatified as the martyred leader of his bloodthirsty crusade. And if I required further evidence, I needed only to behold the gruesome trophy Moebius held aloft. The severed head of Vorador. The final triumphant kill of Moebius's cutthroat mob. His execution marked the annihilation of the vampires. Far from channeling me into Nosgoth's past, Moebius had propelled me over a century to its ghastly future. The intent behind this little detour was unmistakable. Having failed to make me his obedient assassin, Moebius intended to keep me ignorant of my true destiny, which clearly lay in Nosgoth's past. While his deception only reinforced my purpose, Moebius had effectively stranded me here. This left me no course but to explore the era I now occupied and see what changes the century had wrought, following Cain's ill-fated decision. Perhaps time had cleared a path for me into the mountains, where I might unearth more clues behind the mystery of Janos Audron.
So yeah, there's Vorador's head, still remarkably well preserved after 100 years. Like, yeah, Vorador's head is incredibly well preserved. You think it would have rotted by now. I guess him being a vampire makes it easier to preserve it. I guess it doesn't decay as quickly. I believe that's Latin, right? It's supposed to be rest in peace. That was the first time I'd ever heard the word tableau before. And it was also the first time I'd heard the word beatified in this game. It always bugged me that Moebius had a different outfit here than he did in Blood Omen, but they kind of made up for it in the remake here by giving him this outfit. They gave him this outfit in the remastered version of Soul Reaver 1. We saw that in the final video. So they kind of fixed it in a way. They corrected, but it's still kind of weird because he had this green outfit in Blood Omen 1 that's never been repeated in this series. We've never seen it again. Obviously you can unlock this. William is still chopped in half. You can see the Soul Reaver's gone now because Cain has it with him now. You were actually supposed to encounter the younger Cain here. I believe in this section. They say like the younger Cain just as he was about to start his reign of terror, so you were supposed to encounter him in this time period, but They cut that out like so many things. They just didn't have time to fully develop the concept and finish it. Uh-oh, here they come. What? I'm right in front of you. You don't want to come over here? Look at that. Oh, here they come. We could probably blast them with TK, but it will probably take like a full minute to kill them, so I think we should just run for it. You know, screw it, let's just run for it. We don't need... God damn. We don't need to be here. Where's the stairs? Where's the stairway so we can get out of this bitch? Yeah, you can charge all you want. You're not getting me. Oh, they are coming. Look at that. They're not giving up. Also, a quick little note, they can follow you into the spectral realm since they're dimension hopping, so that will not get you away from them. They can follow you there. I'm trying to figure out where to go. Is it this way? Or is that the way we came from? Damn, that is not the correct path. That is not the way you're supposed to go. Because this one is blocked. Maybe we're in the wrong path. Let's see. Yeah, I do not remember where to go. You think we can lose them if we just jump down? Oh hell yeah. We lost them. No, this is the way we came. Oh, they took the shortcut. Here we go. Here's the door I think we're supposed to come through. Oh yeah, because this is where a certain cutscene takes place. Oh, we did one big circle. That sucks. That is one thing. It is easy to get lost in this version of the Stronghold, just because there's no direction of where to go. I guess you're always supposed to head north. I guess. They're still waiting. Oh, there we go. We're supposed to go this way the whole time. That sucks. Yeah, that's way too many of them. Let's just get the hell out of here. Saved by the cutscene.
What pathetic charade is this now, Moebius?
No charade, Raziel. Only the entreaties of this martyred spirit.
Your pleas mean nothing to me after all your deceit. You have propelled me into Nosgoth's future, Moebius, and left me stranded here.
I am truly sorry, Raziel, but it was necessary. Consider it the last valiant act of a doomed man. You have strayed from your purpose, and now behold the result. Gaze upon the wasteland you and Cain authored together.
I fail to see how I'm responsible.
You spared Cain, and by doing so, you have released a multitude of horrors upon this world. I can accept that Cain has murdered me, Raziel. As the Time Guardian, I foresaw that incident long before it occurred, and I take some small comfort in the fact that Cain remains the sole survivor of his vile breed. But you have single-handedly made my sacrifice meaningless.
Your argument is disingenuous, Time Streamer. I cannot see how killing or sparing Cain's future self would alter these events. This wasteland was created by Cain's original refusal at the Pillars. And amidst all these twists and turns, that event has never changed. You are cunning, Moebius. I think you've gotten tangled in your own web.
As Cain clings to his precious seat of power, the pillars sink into a mire of decay, dragging all of Nosgoth down with them.
I don't think this has anything to do with the Pillars, or Cain's failure to sacrifice himself. I think you're simply afraid, because you don't know what he's up to. He's a wild card, isn't he? And you don't want his influence in your game. Which is why you wanted me to eliminate him. Well, now that he survived, you have no idea what's coming, do you? Maybe, for the first time in your entire life, you're terrified that he may have truly found a third option out of the dilemma you orchestrated for him.
Cain's lies have addled your mind. Leave this place and trouble my spirit no more.
If you even are a spirit, you've forgotten. I have a way to tell for sure. If you're willing to risk it.
I didn't think so.
Either way, you lose.
He actually looks like a ghost now. Before it just looked like he was just glowing green. Like he was made out of like Vicks Vapor Rub or something. But the thing is, if you were in Raziel's position, you gotta wonder, is he really being that is he really being that foolish, giving you that dumb accusation that he does, or is he just playing you into thinking he's being foolish and he's actually manipulating you? Which one is it, Raziel? Because it's funny how he doesn't stop to think, wait a minute, Moebius is smarter than that. Maybe there's something wrong with this accusation he's making that is meant to throw me off. That's one of Raziel's flaws. He takes things too much at face value. He takes things at too much face value, doesn't stop to think about the underlying subtext beneath them. Got 3 of them now. God damn it. And of course they're gonna follow us here. So there goes our sword. Damn, and we were right outside too. God damn. We were literally right there. But the problem is now, there's no planar portal to get back. So how do we do this? We're at the bottom of the lake. And we have to leave behind the sword. That sucks. Oh, there's one right there. Maybe we can go back for the sword. Alright, get ready guys, because we're gonna emerge in water here. See, can we go back for the sword or not? Let's see. So these storms were so powerful that they just tore the door right off the hinges. Look at that. That's the door of the stronghold lying right there, and that's a huge ass door. That door is like easily what, like 20 feet across? I mean 20 feet tall. It just completely got torn off its hinges. There's the sword. God damn it. You'll notice a light forge or light reaver basin way up there on a ledge. I don't know why they stuck it up way up there. I guess when you come back later on in a different time period, so you can open up the door to the stronghold. But yeah, that is some distance to climb right there just to get at that light reaver. We're gonna save here because that is a nice good long chunk of the story, and we have several important cutscenes coming up later on, which will take easily around half an hour more of the next video. So we're gonna save right here because that's its own little section where you have to travel to the air forge. Alright, you can kind of see it looking at it closely. It does, yeah, you can see right there it does actually strike his head, the raindrop. So yeah, they did keep the effect here. It's a little more subtle. You can see it clearly with the old style graphics there. You can see it there, right? You can see the water bouncing on his head right there. If you look closely enough, it's more subtle in the newer style graphics, but it is there. So I was mistaken. They didn't take it out. They did keep that water effect. So yeah, that was the Sarafan Stronghold of the past, the Blood Omen period. We saw a lot of significant scenes from the story. We learned exactly how time travel functions in this environment, in this particular series. You had to basically have two versions of the Soul Reaver meeting at the same time in order to be able to create a paradox that changes history. Otherwise, it's impossible. And that's what allows you to, for example, kill someone you need to permanently from the timeline, or if you need to alter events, that's the only way so far that you can do it. We also see that Moebius has sent Raziel obviously to the future. Like I said, this is about a century after Blood Omen, so Cain still hasn't really started his campaign to become king or emperor. He's still just wandering around with the Soul Reaver. He hasn't really fully realized his plans yet to become Nosgoth's sole ruler. So he's still out there, but he's not really a factor yet. As you can see, because of the storm and their circumstances being what they are, the vampire hunters who worked for Moebius have basically transitioned into demon hunters now. That's what they're hunting. Now that the vampires are all extinct, they're hunting demons. And as we saw, they're actually pretty good at it. They killed quite a few of them along the way as we were making our way towards the outside of the stronghold. So they're not completely incompetent. They probably would have made Moebius proud to see how good they are at fighting these things. But yeah, next time when we come back, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going to the pillars because there's an important encounter we have to fulfill there, and then we'll also go to the Elder God's chamber again. We're gonna speak to him again and see what he has to say about all of this. And after that, yeah, we're gonna meet up with Cain again and head towards the Air Forge, which is one of my favorite sections of the game, and probably my favorite one location in the entire game period. Maybe even one of my favorites in the entire series. Like, the Air Forge is pretty much a work of art on the part of the Crystal Dynamic developers. You really have to see it to believe how much detail and intricacy they put into that one section in a video game long before games like God of War ever arrived on the PS2. It's pretty decent, and as I might have mentioned before, I actually did a university website project on it. Not that one section, but I did one on Legacy of Cain, and that was definitely one of the highlights showing how video games could actually be art, not just entertainment. It's the Air Forge, so definitely one of my favorite sections in the entire game. So I look forward to seeing it next time when we come back and play this again. But this is definitely a good game. Is it a great game? Probably not. It's a great story, but I definitely recommend playing it, especially at the reduced price, because I believe this game is on sale right now. It should be on sale for like $16.99 or something like that, the remaster. So if they are and you can get them, I strongly urge you to do so. That neck cracking by Raziel was unsettling, but yeah, I strongly urge you to do so and get those remasters. The first is definitely one of PS1's greatest games. Has great gameplay and great story. This one has a great story, not so much good gameplay, but I think the story is just strong enough to carry it through, along with the soundtrack. Like, if the story and the soundtrack weren't as strong as they are, I think the game would be in trouble. Real serious trouble. But as it is, I think they're just strong enough to carry it through. The way Silent Hill 2's story and soundtrack in the original PS2 version carried it through. You know, without the soundtrack and the story, Silent Hill has nothing. And same thing here, without the story and the soundtrack, Soul Reaver 2 has nothing. But because of its story and its soundtrack and the fact that the script is so strong, I think it gives it a little leeway with the gameplay being subpar, mediocre. So like I said, it's a very good game. It's not great, but it's still good. It's still definitely 8 out of 10 with a 10 out of 10 story for sure. And I definitely urge everyone who hasn't played it to at least give it a try and see what you think of it and see if you like it, especially at that cheap price. You know, you're getting 2 games for 1 pretty much. For $16.99 you get 2 decent games, so definitely give it a try on the good old PSN store or Steam or wherever you buy your video games at. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next time on Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 2 Remastered on the PS4. See you later, everyone.